Alright guys, welcome back to this week's episode of MARINATE. That's your host, Izzy. And obviously we got my friend here.
Yes, I'm your boy.
Introduce yourself.
I'm just the boy.
He's the guy.
I'm the boy. I'm not even the man. I'm the boy. My brain is fried.
Do you know what I've returned to this week? I haven't done this in a while, but I've gone back to reading creepypastas. I've gone back to revisit a few of them. Not by a few, I mean like my favorites, because I only have about like 2 right now that can come to mind. But man, they are good, man. Like, I don't know how popular they are nowadays. But
Yeah, I don't hear much about it. Like, even on
Right?
thing is, I see some of them every now and then because I follow a couple of pages from back in the days.
yeah.
But even
Who do you
Mr.
Let's shout him
Creepypasta.
out. Mr. Creepypasta, that's my guy.
He's the boy. He's
Yeah.
the boy. You know, you gotta respect
Come
OGs.
on. He is a classic, man.
Yeah, I think he's my go-to guy. I follow a couple more. I can't really.
Creeps McPasta is pretty good as well.
I follow him as well.
He's a bit younger, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, like it's just the voice sounds a bit different, but like I
Yeah.
like it.
There's this this one more guy. I follow him because he had some videos, but his voicing, I don't really feel his voice these days. He's that guy who goes, "Oh my god, there is this." You know what I'm
I don't
talking
know
about?
this guy. Nah. Oh wait. Whoa, does he
He's
do
got-
voices for like the characters and shit?
Yeah. He does voices. That doesn't work.
I tried. Not gonna lie, I tried doing it on my stream.
night, and this is not. You tried doing voices on your stream.
I'm not gonna go into super detail because obviously who does that, right? I'm just trying to tell you like the gist of it, and if you're interested, you guys as well. If you're interested, we'll include the links to whatever I'm talking about, just like last time.
Over here in Marinate, we go in super deep.
Don't go in deep. Never go in deep. Okay, let's not. All right. The first thing that I want to bring up today is a creepypasta called Psychosis, right? And I like how the previous couple of episodes, I've also noticed that my theme, the thing that I bring up the most, is this feeling of being watched, right?
Yeah, you
This
like being watched, though.
when I'm taking a shit.
Oh.
What? But anyways, all right. So Psychosis it has these elements. Snap out of it, man. I'm trying to speak on some real serious shit right here.
All right, here we go. Cut.
Anyways, in my opinion, it's quite a classic creepypasta, and it has this thing that I really enjoy in stories called the untrustworthy narrator, right? Where you can't really trust whoever it is that is narrating the story, because from their viewpoint, you don't know if that's you don't know if they're insane, you don't know if they're under some sort of spell. And Psychosis, the interesting thing to me is that the entire story is told like day to day and from one perspective of this guy, this shut-in, who has completely locked himself inside, like indoors. He hasn't left, and his entire viewpoint, his entire ordeal is telling us as to how he's trying to shut himself out from everything, from social media, phones, screens. He's trying not to look at the screen because he is convinced that something out there in the real world, outside of his room, outside of his apartment, something's gone horribly wrong with the world. He doesn't know what, but he's convinced. And the entire time he talks about how he gets these calls, these emails, these voice messages, everything that's trying to grab his attention to try and make him look at his screen, and he does not trust it. He's convinced that something has gone horribly wrong with the world. He doesn't know what, but he has this feeling, and he doesn't trust anyone. And throughout the length of the story, you go in deeper and deeper, and the sort of pacing of the story picks up, right? You get more and more, I guess, closer encounters to whatever this guy thinks is after him. It comes in the form of loved ones' calls, right? Using familiar voices, like a call from his mom, a text from his girlfriend, something like that. That's why I remember, because it's been a while since I've revisited this story. This is something that actually happens to certain people that fall under this sort of condition, where they believe something out there is out to get them, right? They're in danger, something's chasing him. And towards the end, I don't know if I should. All right, spoiler a bit, right?
Carry on with your story in the normal chronological order. Go on.
The ending will leave you thinking for a little bit if he was right, or if he was wrong to be so paranoid about everything. So if you're still here, I'm assuming you either don't mind getting spoiled, you're too lazy to click on the video, or you just straight up don't care. All
Or
right.
you're a big ass fan of us.
I
And
appreciate
you love
that
us
if
so
you are.
much and you're sticking around. Appreciate it.
So the ending is, this entire time he's been convinced, right? He doesn't want to look at his screen. He doesn't want to answer anything. He's very scared, to the point where towards the end, he gouges his eyes out.
Because he doesn't want to know
Gouges
what's
his-
outside.
No, he doesn't want to look because he's convinced. But before he does so, he does look at his screen, and it's like a voice message or something from someone he loves, and it's revealed that because towards the end he gets like knocks on his doors, right?
Right.
It cuts to like a little chapter or like a perspective switch where he was actually right, and the world's been overrun by these sort of beings. I wouldn't say aliens, these beings that feed off of your life force by directly like sucking it from a screen. But yeah, so in the end he was actually right, and the thing on the other side of the door wasn't actually a person or anything. It was this being, and the way I pictured the being in my head is a lump of cables and wires, because it was just using speakers to simulate human voices and knocks. Like, it wasn't even actually knocking on the door.
It was
Like a
sound.
speaker.
Whoa.
Yeah, just playing sound to try and draw him out, because these creatures are comprised of like screens themselves, you know? Like, their whole entire purpose is try and make you look at a screen, whichever screen it is that they've taken over. And at that point, apparently they've taken over like the whole world screen. I might be telling this story completely wrong, because it's been a little bit. In the end, he was right, and he saved himself by gouging his eyes. Basically, he gouged out his eyes, and he's been contained in this sort of infirmary.
Yeah.
What do you call them? Like a psych ward, because there's
Yeah.
padded rooms. He's in a little straitjacket,
Tied
and
up
he's
ones.
gouged his eyes out. And I think one of the few like last final lines is the creatures speaking to each other about how they've captured him now, and he, like, they're basically commenting on how he was crazy as fuck to gouge out his eyes, but he low-key like survived, you know? Even if you knew the spoiler, you know he's hopeless. There's no escape. And he's been right this entire time. You just want to see how it unfolds. And it weighs a lot more in you.
Like I said before, like the story just kind of told me, even the double twist or whatever, kind of reminds me of Cloverfield Lane. I think it's called 101 Cloverfield Lane or something like
That's
that.
the new one.
Yeah, I'm talking about the new one with the underground bunker.
Oh, I know that one actually.
Yeah. Thing is, the girl wakes up. The story goes that the girl wakes up in an underground bunker with people she doesn't really know. The guy says you can't go outside. A nuke or something went off. You can't go outside. The gas is poisonous. Whatever. The story goes on. I'm not gonna go into that. Anyways, things
They
happen.
start doubting each other.
Yeah, you know, it's like a whole psychological thriller kind of thing where it's like you don't know if it's true or wrong. You start, questioning yourself, but then she ends up going outside by the end
And
of the
then you
movie.
see-
And that was that's the first twist, and where you should go outside. Oh well, she starts to believe that like outside air is poisonous. She makes herself a mask and everything. She goes out, takes off the mask. There is fresh. There is
And
clean.
it's fine.
Nothing there. But then that's when the second thing hits, where you know what I'm talking about. I'm not gonna say it. The second.
Do we mention this?
I think I should leave that. But there is a second twist.
There is a second twist. And actually, now that you made that link, it's actually clicking with me, because in Psychosis, it does actually follow the same sort of thing.
The
almost.
progression.
Yeah, instead of like, that ending, right? It's similar. You know what kind of horror that I like? I like the horror that sort
When you look
of
in the
clings
mirror.
to you. That was rude, by the way. Fucking listen, yeah. That's happened to me before, actually. I can't even lie to you. When I had
woke
my
up
hair
and
down,
you're
it was dark. Bro, I got scared
bro.
as fuck.
Bro, I don't look at the mirror when it's dark. That's
Man, That's
speaking
superstitions
of
as well.
yeah, speaking of, there is this thing. I'm not sure. I think it's Asian thing, right? There's this huge sense of superstition and like weird stories that's around.
I
That's
think
more
it's tied into our cultures, really.
pretty much. Yeah, I would say so. And
We were
like
brought up.
yeah, and
Sorry.
one of the things one of the things you said about looking at the mirror, you got scared looking at the mirror. I actually heard somewhere Again, I don't really know where it is, but I think it's like a common thing. You might have heard of it too. Like if you don't look back at the mirror when it's dark. And thing is, what I heard was like if it's dark and you look at the mirror might smile back at you when you're not even doing anything.
Yeah, that's
That
a thought,
freaks
right?
me out, bro.
That's a thought that you just gave me goosebumps because I mean, like I mentioned, we're recording this at like late night as well, so this would be the hour for things like this to happen. Spoiler alert: I'm Thai, right? And in Thai culture, it's not so much about mirrors. I mean, obviously everyone has that whole thing like, oh, don't. Actually, no, we have a thing. Don't brush your hair in front of a mirror late night because it invites. It's like a taunt, man. I've been taught or brought up to believe that if it's late night, meaning like I don't know, after 12, it's just dark, right? Like 11 p.m. late night, whatever you consider to be late night. If you hear a noise or a voice that doesn't belong there, right? Like a creak or someone calling you or I don't know, something that's unfamiliar, do not answer that at all. It's not even a young person thing because there's been times where I've been with my family, right? Me, my mom, my dad in Thailand, and it'll be late night because I mean when we're in Thailand we're not used to the time zone, right? So we're up at late, like during late hours, and we'll hear something and I'll look at them and they'll look at me and we'll just keep it moving. We won't say anything until the next day.
So you guys actually practice that, like not
we
replying.
all know, yeah. Because
You actively
if it's
practice
strange,
that. Okay.
yeah, we actively do because I'll bring it up, like I'll look at them all confused and shit, but I won't audibly say anything because it's so ingrained to us, right, in all generations that like if you do answer, you are fucked.
Okay, so the legend goes it's a true story. How much of it is true? Because it's kind of personally linked to me. It's my cousin who told me this story. You know when you go back home and like I mean like I'm from Bangladesh, Izzy's from Thailand.
Yeah.
When you go back home, you're just chilling with the family. That's all you want to do. You just want to catch up with you because you don't really because
you don't
like
see him that often.
Exactly. So you want to catch up with them as much as you can. And so my cousin told me that her cousin who lives in America, this guy grew up in America. This guy was born in America. So he's kind of like us, you know. He doesn't really believe in like superstitions they have back at home or something like that.
Not as superstitious.
You know, I like as much, you know. Like he's sort of like, yeah, oh well, whatever, you know.
He's all westernized. And stuff.
Yeah. So what he did was he never went to Bangladesh. But like at the age of like I don't know 21, he's older than us. This was like years back, right? At the age of like 21, 22, when it's similar age to ours, that was the first time he went. All right, so we just encountered a weird glitch. It just everything shut down.
Can't lie right now. I do have goosebumps. The cut happened, so for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Anyway, so this guy he goes back to Bangladesh for holiday with his parents, right? And he doesn't really care much. He's that guy's like, oh, I'm not scared of anything. There's this park in like Dhaka, right? Like the capital city. There's this park where it's like one of the biggest parks in the city, and like it's I don't know, it's very known for like the birds there or the greenery and like the roses and the flowers.
Just the wildlife and the scenery and stuff.
Yeah, it's a very popular park.
Okay.
But there's a catch. You don't go there after dark.
Oh.
It's open to public, but you don't go there. No one goes there.
Strange little rule. Yeah. So it's like a local little like tale, right? Like just don't.
There's a tale. It's a very ancient park with a very ancient tale. So like for centuries, people don't go there after dark. And he heard this tale. He heard that like, you know, people are scared of it. He's like, you know what, I'm going to prove it to you guys. It's not a big deal. I'm going to go. He decides to get his boy. And they're like, you know what, like, let's go. Like, we're
just going to go test this out.
So it's one of those, you know, it's really dark. It's like after 12, I think, after midnight. They just walk into the park. It's pitch black. Anyways, they go out and then he was like, you know what, like take a picture of me in front of it. No one's gonna believe it, so like take a picture of me.
Fuck, man.
You know where this is going, right?
Yeah.
He decides to take a picture. He goes like, I'll stand in front of this tree. I'll take this picture. But this was back in the film days. So like I said, it was the old days. You know, this is the film days, bro.
So it's like a manual camera, right?
Yeah, it's a manual camera. It's an analog camera. So he stands in front of this big ass tree, like a banyan tree or some shit.
All right.
And the guy goes 3, 2, 1. He clicks the button. The flash goes off, and he faints. The guy faints right in front of him.
Who? The one that's taking the picture, or
So
the
guy,
one that's
no, the
being
guy who's
taken off?
posing. Yeah, the guy who's
Oh,
posing. The
shit.
boy who came from America. He just
all
faints.
right? He just
straight up.
faints,
As the flash went, like bang, like he faints.
drops.
Yeah. And he checks his pulse. No pulse, nothing. So he
no
calls the police.
pulse?
Yeah, no pulse, nothing. He's not breathing or anything. He just calls the
the
police. He goes like, bro, like this happened. Police came pretty quick. They took him to the hospital,
All right.
and after a while, they announced him dead.
No way.
But here's the thing: there was no mark or touch. Like there's no sign of nothing on his body. It's like he just died. And this
He
is
just-
weird because this is a real story. Like he
Mm.
actually died. You know.
Okay.
Anyways, people forgot about this. Like, you know, obviously his family was sad, and
They
the
did
film,
lose a son.
however, never got developed. So
Oh shit.
this is where the weird thing comes in. How much
Yeah.
how much of it I believe, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing goes, the real picture, the actual picture of that was
scene.
taken that day,
Yeah.
after it got developed, everything was normal in the picture. There was the tree, there was the guy.
I don't like how slow you're going.
Behind him, there was someone standing there.
Oh fuck,
Just
man.
looking at him, like eyeballing him.
Yo. All right. What the fuck? I got
And that's
goosebumps,
it.
man. So, all right. First of all, what the fuck? All right. Secondly, it's kind of all right. So in Thailand, we have this thing where as a general rule, this is everyone, right? As long as you're Thai, I'm pretty sure you've heard this, and maybe you have something similar in your culture as well. But in Thailand, we have this thing where if you don't believe something, that's fine. Just don't disrespect it. Don't go and challenge it. Because there are plenty of these sort of things. Like Thailand is a very superstitious country. I think we're still like 90-something% Buddhist. And, you know, Buddhism's all spiritual and shit, right? And there's just so many different things. There's beliefs from like the other countries, Cambodia, Vietnam, the neighboring countries, and they all have very strong sort of like spiritual afterlife spirits, like all of that. And the most important rule for all of us is if you don't believe it, that's fine. You don't have to believe the superstition. Just do not disrespect it. Do not challenge it, especially if you don't believe it. Because that's when, say if it is real, that's when you get punished for that. And that sort of reminds me, because he clearly didn't believe in it. And
Yeah.
instead of respecting him, being like, okay, sure, that's just a rule that is there. That's just a
Just don't do it.
story.
Don't mess
Yeah.
around.
He went and fucked around with it. And obviously, this feels very different now, because we're talking about someone who actually passed away. And I don't want to be
Yeah.
disrespectful there as well. But I feel like it's just, actions have consequences, man.
His death was never like fully like this is an actual thing. Like I don't know how much of it's true about this photo itself, you know, because like
Yeah.
that came out like way after. His
Mhm.
death was never like, there was no specific reason for it. They just said his heart stopped or something like that.
Yeah, like heart failure or something, right?
Yeah,
Um,
which is weird.
and do you know that there's an actual like common belief in all of Asia? I think I'm not sure if it's China or some other country, but they believe that cameras can take souls. Do you know that?
Like
Like
the movie Shutter. Is that a?
nice
yeah.
little tie into the classic Thai horror Shutter. But yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. I'm disappointed in myself. I saw the remake only, and it was so fucking shit, bro.
I
The
can't
the
believe
West
you just-
the Western.
I
remake,
can't
bro,
believe you just
like,
told me that on fucking podcast. Like
It was so bad. It was one of those Amazon Prime movies that you watch when you have nothing else to do.
But basically, this whole story of Shutter, and I mean, if you guys haven't seen Shutter at this point, do go watch it. It's like more than 10 years old. It's probably 20 years old at this point, because it was one of the first in its time to do what it did. And by this time, even if you do watch it as a new watcher, you might think, oh, that trope's been done before. But little did you
At
know,
that time, it was new. Yeah.
that trope came from this movie. You know, this movie set new grounds. Anyways, the general plot of the story is that this couple, literally, this is the opening scene. The couple coming home from something runs over this girl. They completely run her over, and you know they're all shaken up about it. But then they look in the back mirror, and they see the girl, like she's dead, right? They don't know if she's dead or not. They don't check up on her. They just leave. And the next day, the guy, like, you know, they're shook about it, and they argue with each other, and the girl's like, you should go check up on her, you know? And he's like, well, I can't do anything now. I'm home. Like, I might as well just go see the next day and see if there's a whole big scene. He goes the next day and there's nothing, not even a blood stain. And the guy is a photographer. So the guy and the girl, the couple, I have a feeling they're both uni students or, close to that. And the guy is really into photography, right? He starts noticing that his pictures are turning out weird. So he knows the settings are right. But when he develops them, there's these blurs, right? And the more he takes pictures, the more he notices that these blurs actually form a face. And his face, this figure, is always in his pictures, getting closer and closer, and is always there. The guy starts feeling like this shoulder ache, right? And I'm skipping to the sort of the end of the movie.
Yeah.
He starts feeling this shoulder ache, this pain in his shoulder. And all of us can relate to this now because we either work, we either gamers, got bad posture or something, man. Everyone's got some sort of ache, back pain, shoulder pain. Anyways, you know what he decides to do? He decides to take a picture of himself, right? He sets a timer, steps back a little bit, and he takes a picture of himself because at that point he starts figuring out that this camera can capture this spirit. And
yeah, this is a bit later in the
alert,
movie, like a bit in
Yeah.
the where he starts to see weird stuff happening.
When he
and this
starts
is where
to
he takes
see
a picture
more
of
weird
himself.
stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm glossing over like the main plot points because I do want you
Mhm.
guys to experience this yourselves if you haven't. But the spirit of the girl, she's riding his neck, like
She's
she's
literally sitting on him.
straight up, and he is so afraid by this. He's so shook up by this. They start stepping backwards, and she, in the movie, in the Thai one at least, I don't know about the Western remake, but she starts covering his eyes, and now he can't see. He can't see obvious things, and that's a very Thai belief as well. That if you can't see obvious things, as in, I don't know, say you're driving, and you don't see the bend in the road, and you have an accident, and you die. People would say that, oh, maybe a spirit was covering their eyes, because there's a belief that if a spirit is covering your eye, you cannot see whatever it is that they don't want you to see, which is
Whoa.
kind of scary, right? And that's exactly what happens to the in the Thai version. He cannot see that he's backing up too much and falls off the balcony and dies. Like she takes him with her, and that's how it ends.
That is, yeah. Okay, like you said, this is a process, right? Like taking the actual
Yeah.
physical photo and then developing it and then waiting for
Yeah.
it to actually dry and so you can see the actual picture, right?
Right.
Imagine you take the picture, it's been days, you develop the picture, and then you see there's actually something on your shoulder and it's been there the whole fucking time that you.
Don't do this to me right now, man.
So my dad's the kind of guy, he's a science guy. He doesn't really believe in
Right.
ghosts, phantoms,
Believes in
superstitions.
facts, not really
Yeah,
superstitions.
he's into facts. He's into like things that's like rock solid. Thing is, my dad's a doctor, right? So when he was in med school, his dorm rooms were in the middle of nowhere. So it was in the middle of like a mango forest.
Right.
So it was a bit of a stretch from like his workplace to his dorm room. And he had a lot of stories that was kind of weird, but he always had an explanation for it, right?
Yeah, he always found a way.
Yeah, so it was like, like this one time there was like footsteps in his room and the lights went off, but it turns out it was like some rat or like something, So he
Okay.
always has like, he got scared in his life a lot, but he always
Yeah.
has excuses, except for one story that he keeps like to this day, and
You can't find a reason for it.
yeah. And you know what's funny? Because before I tell the story, I would like to mention that the thing he saw, it's extremely weird because I didn't just hear that thing from him. There's multiple versions of that same being or like the thing. I'll tell the story.
Shit.
But basically, he said when he was really young, him and his cousin were chilling. So like, we in Bangladesh, like I said, you don't stay out after sunset. Like especially in the village, they say like don't stay out after sunset.
Oh yeah.
But my dad and like his cousin, they were like little delinquents. Like they were out and about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like him and his cousin are tight. Like they were boys and they were just getting up to like trouble and stuff when they were young.
Okay.
So this one time he was in this village, they were just chilling by the river or something, and they were just talking, right? And my
Alright.
dad, it was getting late. It was like evening time. You know the blue hour where the sky's kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
blue. It's
yeah.
like,
You
know
got
what I
like all the blue light in.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so
yeah.
it's right after the golden hour.
mean? Exactly. And it's a village, so there's no like street
It's
lamps or
all
anything.
blue. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get you. Cause
Yeah.
I come from a village as well.
Yeah.
Village boys.
And he basically heard like some sort of footsteps or something behind him. Kind of ties back to what you said about
Hearing
don't pay
strange
attention to
things.
it.
Yeah.
Him and his cousin both heard it. Thing is, they looked back. They started.
shit.
They're like, "What the fuck? There's nothing there." And they started talking about it. They're like, "Yo, there's literally
Ah,
nothing here. What was
no.
going on?" And my dad says till this day he felt like this weird kind of push, like something shoved him. He doesn't know what it is. Or my dad, again, like he said, he's a science guy, so he thinks he slipped because he was a wet bank, but his cousin didn't.
Just
Okay, this is where the
Prince-
weird bit. Even this is not even the weirdest part because he looks up from the bank. Right, he fell below. He looks at. He doesn't see his cousin, but he sees behind him. There's a tree, and on top of the tree, he sees this lady in all white.
I just remembered you told me this before, and it got me the same reaction from you. Cause all right,
He sees this lady in all white, long ass hair, like that's like
Fuck,
dangling
stop.
from her feet, and she's just sitting on a branch, just staring at him, or like swinging or something like that. And his grandma heard, like his cousin started screaming, so like his grandma came, picked him up, and like they're walking back. My dad thought he was seeing things.
holy
He
shit.
jerked his head, looked
Yeah.
back. She was still there, like still swinging from the branch.
Fuck.
He went all the way. Like, he could still see the tree because they went to their house. He could still see the tree. She was still there.
Nah, can you imagine how fucked that is though? What if that was you, and you swear to think like you swear on everything,
He swears that he saw her.
and it wasn't like, oh, you thought of it. Like you look back and it's still there. It's like you know that feeling. You know when a stranger stares at you and you look away because you're like, oh, it's kind of awkward. And you look back and it's still staring.
Yeah.
Except this time is even worse because you know that person's not even meant to be there. So what
Yeah.
the fuck, right?
Yeah.
Fuck, that gave me goosebumps, man.
And the weird thing is, like, I think I was watching a YouTube video or something like that. I was talking to
Yeah.
someone,
Yeah.
and they don't know about my dad. They never heard about my dad, and they
Uh-huh.
casually go, "Oh yeah, there's like there's this sighting of like this lady in white, in like India or like around Asia, like around in Japan as well. There's
wouldn't
this
lie.
lady in white."
Do you know why I had goosebumps? I didn't have goosebumps because, oh, you mentioned a lady with long hair, because fucking that's everywhere in Asia. But you mentioned a tree and the way she was sitting on the tree. And all right, so in Thailand, we have this thing where different areas, I know you're getting goosebumps. I'll get goosebumps telling this shit. But different areas, and especially where there are urban legends about how you don't do this, or you don't stay out like late during night, or you have to respect the dark, right? One specific story is, teenagers, they know of this location, right? This sort of old abandoned area, and they're like, fuck that, man. Like, nothing's there. Let's just go there and test this out. So they do their thing, and they start hearing weird noises in the building. So they run out, and whilst they're running, they feel like they can hear, like rustling in the trees or like footsteps behind them, just all sorts of noise. And it's gonna be either paranoia, panic, whatever. But one of them, like, they find their torch, right? Because they all have the torches, and they're like, oh shit, like where did we leave our bikes, blah blah. And it sort of comes back to the whole like spirit covering your eye thing, because then you can't see, like, you can't find specific stuff that you could swear it was there. In the story, they hear so much rustling in the trees. They're like, what the fuck, like, is that a bat? Is that like some sort of animal? They shine a torch up, and in the story, dangling like her legs off the tree, sitting on a branch, is a lady in white with long hair, and all they can see, she's not even smiling. All right, you know the way she's staring at them. Imagine the angriest expression you've ever seen. That's what the way to describe it. Like, they said the moment they locked eyes, even if it was for a split second, they were terrified. It was the most angry they've ever seen anyone. My mom even told me, whenever you enter a new area that you're not familiar with, before you sleep, you should always pray. Like, this is specifically for me, right?
Yeah.
Which said you should just always specifically pray, and when you end the prayer, add a little part where you are addressing the potential spirit, and ask them for permission to be there, and state that you have no bad intentions in this area. Like, you didn't come here to cause trouble. You're just passing by or seeking refuge, and then go to sleep, because otherwise you might not have such a peaceful night.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that because, obviously, my parents are Muslim, I try my best to follow the religion.
Yeah.
We have a teaching in our religion, in Islam, that when you enter even your home, right?
Yeah.
You know how, like, okay, so when we greet people, we say salam, like, peace be upon you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Assalamu alaikum or something. We have a saying that when you enter your home, you should say
Yeah.
it, even if there's no one there and you're the only
Right.
one who's entering, because you
Right.
don't know who's listening.
I feel like the most interesting part about this, because obviously, always gonna say, oh, I don't know if this is true. I don't know if this is not. Whatever. But then how are people across so many cultures, countries have such similar stories?
That's where it's scary, bro. That's where it's
'Cause
scary,
that's-
because
That's
like I
what
said,
makes it so much more closer.
your
to
story,
reality.
my dad's story. You don't know my dad. Like those guys don't know my dad.
Yeah, like
How
I mean,
did
your
they the link?
your story is a lot more personal. Like mine was more of a general tale, but
Mm-mm.
thing is, it wouldn't be a general tale if so many people
That's what I'm
didn't
saying.
experience
Exactly.
it.
Exactly.
And the fact that like obviously in your tale you speak, like the whole point of it is you mentioned that she stares and she doesn't stop.
Mm.
In Thai stories it's the same.
This is, you're gonna hate me a little bit right now, right?
All right.
But you know how you said, like, if there's something, people say something, even if you don't believe it, respect it. Don't go chasing. Don't go.
You
ghost-
fucking you
I
tried
went
something,
ghost
didn't you?
chasing. I went
Fuck
ghost
you,
chasing.
man.
I never had any personal experience with like anything weird. I mean, until it was
I've
one
had
time.
plenty.
See, that's the thing. A lot of people say that, but me, I just had the one thing that freaked me out. I think I told you. And
Yeah,
this
yeah.
was,
All right, let's see.
So my boys used to come over because, like, like in London, all the boys live around the boys you go to
check up
school
on
with.
each other, man.
Yeah,
Come
yeah,
on.
they live in the same areas and like you check up on each other. So they come over one night, right? And they're like, "Yo, by the way, we were on our way, and then there was this abandoned factory around my ends." And then they're like, "It's been abandoned for years, bro. Like they say it's under construction, but no one really does anything."
It's like those derelict buildings, man, all over London, where
Yeah.
like it always looks like there's a construction site, but nothing's really going on.
Nothing's
And it's
going
just
on,
been there for time.
And it's just boarded off, like it's
yeah,
closed off.
yeah, exactly.
So they go like, we were walking by the area, and it's a very quiet area. And they're like, we were walking by the area, and we heard knocks on the window upstairs. And I'm like, you mans are chatting, like
Chatting shit.
Yeah, chatting shit. Like there is no knocks on the windows. What do you mean? Like no way. He goes like,
Alright.
nah, fam. They both look a bit shook as well. They're like, nah, bro. I
You're
swear.
convinced.
One of them is like, I was thinking, yeah, he can chat shit because he chat shits all the time. The
Yeah,
boys.
yeah,
They
yeah.
always chat shit. But the other one, he seemed like legit, So I was like, you know what, you mans, like, let's go, let's see this.
You want to go see it for
I
yourself.
want to go see it for myself because I'm that guy that
Go
dies
on.
in every movie, I'm like, let's go. And
Alright.
basically we go under this thing. Me being the big man, I'm just there like, hello, is anybody there?
You felt invincible, innit?
The first red signal, you know what I mean?
Alright.
I don't hear shit, like nothing. So I go a bit closer and I'm like, hello, can you please knock on the window if someone's present? Nothing. So
Alright.
my boys are like shook. They're across the street from me.
Because
They're
they
like,
already know what happened.
bro, they're not coming forward, So I turned back at them thinking I'm Tony Stark, the whole pose. Like when he does
yeah,
this.
yeah.
Thinking
Like,
I'm
come at
Tony-
me. This is where I live.
Yeah. I turned back at them and I'm like, what?
Yeah, what's going on?
What? I say that, bro. I swear, like I hear 2 knocks, very distinct 2 knocks, bang bang on the window upstairs. I look back. I look back at my boys. They're not there. They legged it. They ran.
They left you. I'm going to use this to tie into my story because I've told you this one. I know I have. But to this day, okay, so I'm the opposite of Ayaz, right? Ayaz said he's only experienced this one thing. I've experienced a couple things, and I think those will come out in later episodes eventually, naturally, right? But the one that I want to talk about today is... Okay, so Ayaz has already mentioned, like, us going home and blah, blah, blah. So I used to, or still do, go back to Thailand quite frequently. And, I mean, every, year or two, right? And in my village... Well, my village is surrounded by mountains. Whenever I go back, obviously I go see my cousins, and they always want to tell me let's go up to the mountains, let's go see a temple, let's go do whatever. So I think it was a recent trip. It was a recent trip, right? And it was not the most recent trip, but it's been less than 5 years at least. Anyways, me and my cousins, it was broad daylight. I'm speaking like scorching sun. It's me and my older cousin and this other dude. Their bright idea was, I want to go take you to see this temple in the mountains. And I'm like, yeah, cool, I'm down. Because whenever I go back, I'm open to new things. I want to experience new things.
Yeah, you want to try
even
new
if
things
it's,
that you don't see every
even
day.
if, yeah, exactly. Even if they've seen it a billion times, they want to show me off, let's go. So we go up there and okay, so I want to give some context. So temples in the mountains, it's quite common. But this one, when we got there, had an atmosphere that I don't know, it didn't exactly unsettle me, but I found it like noticeable how quiet everything was. There's like no noise of any speaking, no praying, or I can barely hear it. And I'm looking around, and I mean, my cousin's like, all right, I want to show you this cave. Because this temple has a cave which links to the other side, and they were talking about how they usually go there, and it's very nice on the other side. It's all like very preserved, very natural. There's trees, bushes, whatever, flora, scenery, right? And it's a good view. So I'm like, yeah, I'm down for that. And they're like, oh, you don't mind passing the cave, right? Because it's pitch black. I'm like, that's fine. We got our phones. We got a torch. Let's go. Okay. So we reached the little cave, and I looked down, and obviously it's pitch black, and it's actually very wide. And I couldn't see anything apart from the fact that the ground is slightly downwards and then dips back up, and I could see the light on the other side, right?
Right.
That was the cave. Like, it was this huge expanse, but there was an opening on the other side, and we could pass through.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm talking to the others because obviously they're leading forward, right? They're more familiar with the place. I'm like, yo, just give me a second. Let me shine the light from like, you know, my torch on my phone so I could actually see where I'm stepping. And they're like, oh yeah, that's fine. Just don't point it up because you don't want to wake up the bats, right? Like, you don't want to get bitten by the bats, or you don't want to disturb them because there are bats. There are a lot of bats, naturally. So I'm like, oh shit, okay, cool. I kind of want to see him. So I slightly, at that point, the torch is already on, and I slightly point it upwards. And all three of us are obviously following the light. And the strangest thing here is that the light catches something white, like bone white. And for the time that the light is pointing at it, we all could notice that the light was bouncing off a tree. The tree was in the middle of that darkness, right? And it was fat. Like, it was a massive tree trunk, bone white, going from the floor all the way to the ceiling. No leaves, no nothing. For the split second that I could see it, we all looked at each other. And then, you know that little rule I mentioned before? You see something weird,
don't talk about it.
Don't talk about it. We all looked at each other, and they immediately said, all right, you know what, let's leave. And I didn't question it, nothing at all. And we left. Next day comes, during broad daylight, I go up and ask them, like, you guys saw that, right? Like, that tree? You guys saw that? And they're like, yeah. We definitely saw it. And I was like, well, why'd you make me leave so quickly? And he said, well, it's never been there before. We go there very often, and there has never been a tree during that middle section of the cave, which freaks me out. Because I'm like, first of all, even if you think of it scientifically,
there's no point. I was gonna say it's
no
weird.
Tree can thrive in that sort of space, because you could say, all right, maybe the bats ate some fruits, right? You know,
but like, it's pitch black.
Their droppings might have contained some seeds, and maybe a seed caught in the ground and started growing, right? But here's the thing: plants need water, obviously, and they need light. Yeah. Light doesn't reach that section of the cave. No matter what time of day, it wouldn't reach that because it's way too deep.
Damn.
And it's just way too deep in there, man. It doesn't make sense. And the thing is, the tree that I saw wasn't like a dinky little tree. It wasn't skinny. It was thick. A thick tree trunk. Completely white. And we asked another kid around there, right? That hangs with them. And he wasn't there with us that day. Asked him, I was like, yo, you been to this cave, right? He's like, yeah, of course, man. Like, me and, you know, my oldest, like, we've gone there a couple times. I was like, all right, you know that cave? You know when you pass through, is there ever, like, you ever seen a tree? It's like, what tree? Why would there be a tree? Doesn't make any sense. And anything that's so psychological or, like, untrustworthy narrator, I love that shit. Because it gets you guessing. It's all psychological. It's like, okay, so
there's no answer to it. There's no answer to it.
Yeah.
It's in your head.
That's exactly where fear comes from. When you have no answer, when you have no explanation for whatever it is you see or you hear or you experience, that's when it starts getting scary or creepy. And I think with that,
what makes a good horror movie, like Izzy started off with.
Exactly.
And,
I think
not just cheap jump scares.
We're gonna wrap it up, guys.
Yep. Honestly, thank you guys for watching. This been, I mean, after last week's heavy and deep episode, I feel like this is a good fresh air.
Yeah, this has been more of like a personal experience or just a discussion of creepy things. We're still creepy, right? But at least it's not as heavy and as realistic as it was last week.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, I also said, hope it's been a nice little breath of fresh air. I mean, we're still gonna revolve around this sort of thing because it's just something that we both like. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and do feel free to leave a comment on anything during the episode.
Love to know about some of your experiences. You know, if you have any personal, cause like I said, I don't know. I didn't have a lot. I would like to know that. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. This been a good ride, and
that peace.